Welcome back, DJ here. Well, I thought I'd finished for the day. I'd already posted this morning, but news keeps coming out, which affects us substantially. Our freedoms to think, our freedoms to express ourselves, and we are worrying the USA. The new Trump government is worried on our behalf for what we're doing in Britain and how we're losing our freedoms. And so the USA State Department, they've said we are monitoring the prosecution of a UK woman in an abortion facility buffer zone case and are concerned about the freedom of expression in Britain. Now, this is very unusual. Other countries do not interfere with the domestic policies of other democratic countries, but they're worried that Britain's failing to be a democratic country, that we're being taken over. And I fear this as well, and perhaps you do as well. The verdict for Dr. Livia Tuskegee-Bolt, a Christian woman who faced criminal trial over the last few weeks for holding a sign offering consensual conversation in the buffer zone in Bournemouth. Now, they've already prosecuted an ex-army guy for silently praying in Bournemouth in the street, and now they prosecuted Livia Tuskegee-Bolt for offering to speak to people. She just said, I'm here to speak if you wish, if you want to. The message from the USA State Department: we are concerned about the freedom of expression in the United Kingdom. We are monitoring the Tuskegee-Bolt case. Her verdict will be handed down by a district judge, Orla Austin, on Friday the 4th of April. So we're coming up, it's the 1st of April right now. So in 3 days' time, we'll have the verdict. And the ADF International is supporting Dr. Tuskegee-Bolt in the legal defence. In its post, the State Department Bureau said USA-UK relations share a mutual respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. However, as Vice President Vance has said, we are concerned about the freedom of expression in the United Kingdom. This is a massive thing to be saying from one democratic country about another democratic country, that they're concerned, that the Vice President of America is stating is concern about the freedom of our right to express ourselves in our own country. While recently in the UK, DRL Senior Advisor Sam Sampson met with Livia, who faces criminal charges, as I've said, for offering a conversation within a legally prohibited buffer zone at an abortion clinic. He said, we are monitoring her case. It is important that the UK respect and protect freedom of expression. Dr. Tuskegee-Bolt has said, I'm grateful to the US State Department for taking note of my case. Great Britain is supposed to be a free country, yet I've been dragged through court merely for offering consensual conversation. I'm thankful to the ADF International for supporting my legal defence. Now, here I will say and admit I'm a member of the ADF legal defence, not the team, but I'm a member of the team, and I do help finance it. So, big up for them. Peaceful expression is a fundamental right. No one should be criminalised for harmless offers to converse. She added, it's a tragic to see that the increase of censorship in this country has made the US feel it has to remind us of our shared values and basic civil liberties. Yes, it is. It is a very sad note indeed. I'm grateful to the US administration for prioritising the preservation and promotion of freedom of expression and for engaging in robust diplomacy to that end. And I'll tell you what America's now saying they're going to do about it. but I'll leave that to the end. It deeply saddens me that the UK is seen as an international embarrassment when it comes to free speech. My case involving only a mere invitation to speak is but one example of the extreme and undeniable state censorship in Great Britain today. Are we aware of this? You and I are aware of this as we talk about it and we listen about it and we see other people saying so, but the vast majority, they don't seem to be aware of how much is being taken away from us, and they won't be aware until they find that they no longer have the right to speak or think even and express themselves. There's a worry in the public houses that the law is coming out that if what you say offends maybe the bar staff, they will report you to the police. So you've got to be careful of what you're saying and what offends, well, whatever they don't like. So if you express a political view and they don't like it, they can be offended and report you to the police. Remember that. That's how bad it's getting. And you could be in a queue in a shop and you're overheard. Report to the police. As we saw with the school one I just told, the nursery school one I did this morning, children 3, 4, 5 years of age who said, well, a boy comes in a dress, and I said, well, but you're a boy. Oh, you're transphobic. A 3 or 4-year-old. That's how bad it's getting. Worry. Don't ignore what's going on because it will happen to you eventually. So where was I with what I wanted to tell you about? Okay, responding to the DRL's comments, that's the is the State Department in America comment. Barrister and legal counsel for ADF International, Jeremiah, now I hope I get his name right, Igunga said the UK's censorship crisis is the result of a long-standing failure of British politicians to vigilantly protect fundamental rights in the UK, while hypocritically claiming to be protecting rights and championing them abroad. Yeah, they're saying, oh, that's not democratic too in countries abroad, but then doing it themselves. It's a very worrying trend, and it is 1984. Yeah, the novel I'm talking about, George Orwell's novel, 1984, dystopian world where people are told what they can think and what they can't think, and what they can say and what they can't say, what they can express and what they can't express. Yep, it is a very, very worrying problem. We cannot consistently claim the UK is a bastion of free speech when law-abiding citizens like Livia are prosecuted for nothing more than peacefully offering to speak to people. What freedom do we have if citizens cannot offer consensual conversation in a public space? What freedoms? None. Today, authorities are targeting conversations and even silent prayers they say are related to abortion. Tomorrow, it could be other topics that goes against the mainstream perspective, as defined and policed by those in power. The slippery slope towards tyranny is clear. This is not how free and democratic countries should function. True friends do not stand idly by as their friends blindly walk into the ditch. The robust protection of fundamental freedoms has historically formed the basis of special relationships between UK and the USA, a relationship that's now needlessly strained due to, in large part, to the current censorial trajectory of Britain. It is right for the USA State Department and J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States of America, to warn the UK that censorship is antithetical to freedom, democracy, and societal flourishing. Mr. Gunbully added, good relationships with the USA are key to our economic and military security. Criminal prosecutions for silent prayer and offers of consensual conversation are not only illiberal but also irresponsible. And I'm going to tell you about this in a little. I promised it earlier, and I'm going to promise you again. I'm going to tell you what America is suggesting they're going to do about it if we don't change. We do not want to be at loggerheads with America, who is standing up for freedom, and we are not. So, the government must act to ensure, this is Mr. Ngungali continuing, the government must act to ensure that what is undoubtedly our most important diplomatic relationships is not put at risk due to an ideological commitment to censorship. District Judge Austin will hand down the sentence, the verdict, I should say, to Dr. Tosiki Bolt on Friday, 4th of April, as I mentioned before. It's the same judge who last October found Adam Smith Connor guilty of silently praying in a buffer zone in Bournemouth. He's the soldier I talked about, in a case which Vice President Vance directly mentioned in his Munich Security Conference speech. Then all these things they're doing, taking people to court, are for silent prayer and silent thinking, or offering to speak to people, is not going unnoticed abroad. The ADF, again, as I say, it's a body I'm part of, is supporting Mr. Smith Connor in his appeal against his conviction, which will be a July trial. Then there's the Rose Doherty's buffer zone case in Scotland, where she was arrested. She offered to help as well. In February, again, GRL commented. So America commented back in February on Rose Doherty, and she's a 73-year-old grandmother, and she held a sign up saying, "Coercion is a crime, here to talk, but only if you want." She was arrested for saying, "I'm here to talk, but only if you want." Coercion is a crime. What was about was the abortion thing, and many people in the Glasgow, it seemed women that was going for abortions, it was their partners, their husbands or their boyfriends, who was forcing them to go and have an abortion. And so she put, "Coercion is a crime, here to talk, but only if you want." She was offering help. She wasn't just saying, "Oh, have a chat with me." There was offers of help if they wanted to. If they didn't want to go through with the abortion. DRL said police in Scotland arrested a woman for holding a sign offering to talk to people in a restricted buffer zone. Freedom of expression needs to be protected. We call on governments, whether in Scotland or around the world, to respect freedom of expression for all. That seems a reasonable stance to take. ADF, as I say, is supporting Mrs. Doherty. Recently rejected a warning sent to her in a letter from the prosecutor fiscal, which is the Scottish equivalent of the English, as is required here to accept her action. They sent her a letter telling her it was required for her to accept her actions were unlawful. Offering to help someone was unlawful. Where do they get these ideas from? She did not cause harassment. She did not block access to the abortion facility or influence anyone regarding abortion activities banned in Scotland's buffer zones, but merely exercised her right of freedom of expression, which is protected under national and international laws, by offering conversation. Mrs. Doherty herself said, "I cannot pretend that what I did was unlawful," because they're telling her she's got to admit it's unlawful. But she said, "I can't pretend. I merely offered a chat, particularly in the context of anyone experiencing coercion of any kind, an issue firmly on my heart. This is why I am rejecting the warning I was issued with by the Scottish authorities, which, with the support of ADF International, that's why I'm a member, It isn't right to deprive anyone of their right to take up an offer to talk, or restrict me unfairly from carrying out this peaceful, compassionate action, she said. Reacting to the letter sent to by the prosecutor, Pirate Fiscal, Lorcan Price, Irish barrister and legal counsel for ADF International, said the warning issued by the Scottish authorities in effect demands Rose accept culpability for criminal behaviour. This Christian grandmother stood peacefully alone, making herself available for discussion with anyone who wished to speak to her. How can this possibly be outlawed in a society? Well, I would say in a free society. Is it free? Is it free? In his Munich Security Conference speech last month, Vice President J.D. Vance called out Scotland's draconian abortion facility buffer zones, and he mentioned that the Scottish Government last year sent a letter to residents whose houses fall within this. They have a 200 metre, not 150 in England and Wales, but it's 200 in Scotland, that you cannot be in either way, 200 by the abortion. So they sent a letter saying, in a private place, activities in a private place, such as your house, within an area between the protected premises and the boundary of a zone, could be an offence if they can be seen or heard within the zone and done intentionally or recklessly. What nonsense! So you're in your own house, perhaps it's a nice warm day and you've got your window open, and someone walking past hears you say, well, I'm against abortion. Right, you've offended me. Well, get the police. This is what they're saying. It's wrong, wrong, wrong. But this is what we've got now in authority in Britain. So, Green Party member of the Scottish Parliament, Gillian Mackay, who authored the Scottish buffer zone law, admitted in an interview following Vice President Vance's comments that in her view, prayer in a private home within a buffer zone could be a crime depending on who's passing by the window. Again, it's who's passing by, someone who takes no notice or someone who agrees, but anyone who disagrees is then entitled to say, I'm offended, it's a crime. I feel stressed, I feel alarmed, I feel harassed because I heard someone in their own house speak. Latest news is the State Department responsible for US foreign policy, who would not usually comment on domestic policies of another country, was asked about the comments, and a source familiar with trade negotiations. Now, I told you I'd get to this. I said that USA is contemplating doing something about Britain's contraction of free speech. So the latest news from the American State Department, responsible for US foreign policy, who wouldn't normally comment on domestic policies of another country, when asked about the comments, a source familiar to the trade negotiations told the Telegraph News there should be no free trade without free speech. That's ominous. That is ominous. No free trade without free speech. A stance that could become a point of contention between the two nations, Britain and America. And I tell you what, we are already going to suffer in April the 5th when the tariffs hit Britain. Donald Trump's tariffs on Britain's steel and cars and other items. But if there's going to be no free trade, well, Sir Keir, our Prime Minister, the Labour Party Prime Minister, what does he have to say? Well, Sir Keir has been trying to strike up a trade deal with the USA since coming to power in July. However, the government is braced for Donald Trump's long-promised global tariffs expected to come in force on Wednesday, the 5th. As hopes fade for a deal before the US President's Liberation Day, Trump confirmed on Sunday that tariffs would hit all countries, prompting markets to tumble. Another phone call between Trump and Sir Keir at the weekend Number 10 conceded on Monday that tariffs would be likely to hit Britain. So that's bad in itself. But, however, the Vice President Vance has said, "We are concerned about the freedom of expression in the United Kingdom. It is important that UK respect and protect freedom of expression." What, number 10? Well, number 10 is in denial. As he reported, here we go, a White House source sought to play down the significance of free speech to trade talks, telling the Telegraph, "We know it is something they have a bugbear about." Now you have a bee in your bonnet, but it's got nothing to do with you. It's not going to affect us. We are happy to have discussions on a broader, wide-ranging relationship. Then they add, "I don't think enhancing our economic engagement that is beneficial to both countries is contingent with this particular issue." Well, you haven't been listening then, because I've just quoted that they said it has. And you're saying, "Well, I don't think it will." Last month, the Vice President of the United States said free speech in Britain and across Europe is in retreat. He said there can be no free trade without free speech. And then you say, "I don't think this is a particular issue." Who were you listening then? Who were you listening to? It certainly wasn't J.D. Vance, was it? Why is the Labour Party government so intent on having these lockdowns on free speech? You tell me, because I've spoken now for 22 minutes and I think that's enough. I like to keep these as short as possible. I see some posts go on for hours and bit with interviews. I'm not going to do that. I want to get straight to the point, and the point is we are at loggerheads with the USA, and I should imagine other democratic countries, because we are cutting free speech, free expression. We are arresting people for free speech, for offering to speak, for offering help. It's got to stop. Will it stop? Not with this government. I can't see it unless there's a complete turnaround, a complete U-turn. We are in trouble. Freedom of speech is on the out. Your comments, please. Please, please, please. I do like your comments, and I'm getting quite a few now, which is very enjoyable to read and respond to. And I'm not going to say any more, so be safe, be good, and goodbye from DJ, goodbye from him, goodbye from me.